to West Virginia without his daughter, and little did he know he'd never see her again. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Neenerland. To Neenerland. To Neenerland. Tonight I'm going to be telling you the horrifying true crime case of the Farmville murders. This is definitely the worst case that I've covered, and it's a long one. I've been working on this for at least 2 weeks. It's heavy. As always, this is a true crime case. I'm going to try to keep it as PG as possible, but viewer discretion is advised. Emma Niederbrock was a 16-year-old girl who lived with her mother in Farmville, Virginia. Like many other teens in the early 2000s, she spent a lot of her time on MySpace, going by the name Ragdoll. She had been homeschooled since middle school and was heavily involved in the online horrorcore community. She expressed herself through her looks, dyeing her hair bright pink and experimenting with heavy makeup. She was just a kid trying to find herself and navigate the complexities of her parents' recent split. Her mother, 53-year-old Dr. Deborah Kelly, was a professor of criminal justice and sociology at Longwood University, and she specialized in violence against women. Her father, 50-year-old Mark Niederbrock, was a Presbyterian minister at Walker Church in Hicksburg, Virginia. The family had been in counseling in recent months, dealing with the separation and their concern over Emma's dark interests. Emma was really into a subgenre of music called horrorcore. If you're not familiar, it's essentially just rap music with graphic, macabre lyrics. One particular artist named Rosakel, who penned the songs Murder Potion, Homicidal Activity, and Dumpster Baby, befriended Emma online. Rosakel grew up similarly to Emma and developed a fondness for her. She didn't want to see Emma make the same mistakes that she had, and she kind of took her under her wing. Rosakel also became friends with 18-year-old Melanie Wells and realized that the girls lived relatively close to each other and suggested that they be friends. They quickly became very close, and Melanie would spend many weekends with Emma in Virginia. Rosakel and her boyfriend, fellow horrorcore artist Sick-Tanic the Soulless. I will be just referring to him as Sick from here on out. They were going to be putting on a festival in Southgate, Michigan on September 12th, 2009 called Strictly for the Wicked. Emma really wanted to attend the festival with Melanie and also planned on meeting her 20-year-old online boyfriend, Richard Sam McCroskey, for the first time at the show. musicians themselves. So Emma and Sam had been chatting online for about a year. They related to each other over their parents' separations and their love of the horrorcore community. The two would send love notes and videos back and forth on MySpace. In one particular video, Sam gives Emma a tour of his room, featuring his addiction of about 10 empty energy drink cans, his CD collection, and his wall of awesomeness, which consists of posters of various bands and a random hatchet. They seem to be smitten with one another, with Emma writing, "You are my one and only everything," on Sam's MySpace. But Rosikel noted that Emma never officially called Sam her boyfriend. While Emma's parents were apprehensive, they agreed to let Emma go to the concert because horrorcore seemed to be the only thing bringing their daughter joy since the split. They also agreed to let Sam stay at Deborah's house for the following week with Emma and Melanie. There would be conditions though. Deborah and Mark would be attending the concert with them. Now, we could talk about how wild it is to let a 20-year-old strange man stay with your 16-year-old daughter, but unfortunately this is the least of our concerns with this situation. A co-worker of Dr. Kelly's said, "She's either gonna go on her own, or I go with her and make sure she's okay." Dr. Kelly thought this may just be a phase that Emma would eventually grow out of. I can understand the parents' concern. Reading through some of the lyrics for popular horrorcore artists, the stuff is graphic, and a lot of it I don't even feel comfortable repeating here. I think Pastor Mark and Dr. Kelly were doing what they could to allow their daughter to be silence. Melanie's mom eventually phones Rosickel, and now she's trying to get a hold of the girls and Sam to no avail. Rosickel says eventually all the phones started going straight to voicemail. So at this point, she makes a post online asking the horrorcore community for help finding them. Ross gets the number for a friend of Sam's who says he will try to get a hold of him. Meanwhile, Melanie's mom starts contacting the local police to see if the kids were possibly in an accident. They had no reports, and this is when Melanie's father drives out to Farmville. After waiting 8 hours, he is told by a neighbor that the girls are okay. But little did he know that wasn't a neighbor, it was Sam McCroskey. Back in West Virginia, Melanie's mom and her brother are still trying to get hold of her. They call the Niederbrock residence and someone picks up. Sam. He tells Alex that the girls and Emma's mom went out, but their car broke down. They were waiting for AAA to pick them up, and he could call back in a few hours, and Melanie should be home. They never heard from Melanie, so Kathleen keeps calling. She calls the police and requests a welfare check. They tell her that they sent an officer over, and he did speak with Sam. Sam told him the girls were at a movie and that Emma had actually just called him. Kathleen is beside herself and very confused. She tries calling Emma, but of course it goes right to voicemail. She has several more phone calls with Sam, and each time his story changes. At one point, Sam tells Kathleen that the girls went to go see Emma's dad, Mark. So Kathleen gets hold of Mark. He says, "No, I haven't seen the girls since dropping them off," and now he's worried. He tells Kathleen he's about an hour away from the house, but he's gonna go check and he'll call her back ASAP. She never heard back from Mark. Kathleen is at a complete loss. She calls the Niederbrock house again, and this time Sam says the girls can't come to the phone. Apparently, Sam now tells her that there were noises in the house, and she told him to call the police because something is obviously wrong. Surprisingly, he does call the police. He told dispatch that there was a weird sound coming from the basement. He thought maybe it was one of the dogs. An officer did come out. He checked the basement, saw nothing, and left. Police said they left the home without checking for the girls and Deborah because Sam had answered all their questions and they didn't feel anything was suspicious. Now this next part of the story I heard from Rosickel and Sick on the show Web of Lies on the ID channel. I also listened to a podcast that Sick did an interview on, and he told the story slightly differently, but some version of the following happened. So Rosickel gets a call back from At this point, they obtain a search warrant and find a fourth body upstairs. Melanie, Emma, and Mark were downstairs, and Deborah was upstairs in her bedroom. Now, the bodies were not immediately identifiable because of how badly they were injured and decomposed, but they were, of course, Melanie, Emma, and her parents. All of them were bludgeoned. Emma, Melanie, and Deborah were all attacked in their sleep, violently. It appears as though Mark was attacked by surprise, and his attack was so vicious that the hardwood floor beneath him was destroyed. By the time the police got into the house and realized what was going on, Sam was gone, and as you can imagine, they were pretty eager to speak with him. Sam left the house sometime in the wee morning hours on the 18th, hours before police discovered the bodies. He actually had 2 run-ins with police in the meantime. He took the money that Mark had in his wallet and his 2000 Honda and got stuck in a ditch around 4 a.m. The homeowner of where he got stuck in the ditch at called the police, and he did not have his license, and he told the officer, "This is my girlfriend's dad's car." Well, the car was not reported stolen, so the officer that responded just gave him a ticket and impounded the car. So the tow truck driver who was taking the car was going to give Sam a lift to a convenience store. He said that Sam smelled awful. He apparently needed to drive with his head out the window of the truck and was gagging at his scent. The driver noticed that Sam had what looked like hickeys on his neck, and Sam said his girlfriend gave them to him. Earlier, I mentioned that Sick noticed hickeys on Sam's neck the night before the concert, and again, it's possible that they were from Emma. She may have felt pressured to give Sam a chance, and it just didn't work. We will never really know. The driver dropped him at a convenience store, and from there, Sam hopped in a cab for the Richmond airport. Now, that cab was actually pulled over for speeding on the way, and Sam was calm, cool, and collected, even getting out of the car to smoke a cigarette while waiting. The cab driver said Sam opened up to him a little bit. He told him there had been a fight with his girlfriend over text messages she received from another guy. He said Emma caught him looking through her phone and freaked out. He said he waited for her to fall asleep before leaving, and even though they were fighting, he felt like they could work it out, but he was gonna have to sweet talk her. I can't imagine how the tow truck driver and cab driver must have felt upon realizing they had interacted with the murderer, and the police too, the various officers that had visited the house before discovering the bodies. So Sam arrives at the airport, and he tried to get on an earlier flight home, but he couldn't afford it. So he planned to just wait at the airport until his flight 2 days later. At the Niederbrock residence, police found information about Sam's flight back to California, so they sent a bolo and his picture to the Richmond airport. Thankfully, a security guard recognized him. He was sleeping in a baggage claim area, and there is video of him being apprehended online if you want to see it. It is believed the murders took place hours after they returned home from the concert. Sam was drinking and smoking and possibly doing prescription drugs. He found the weapon, a wood-splitting maul, outside the home. He claims he chose that weapon because they would suffer the least. And as ridiculous as that is, it does appear they didn't suffer. There were no defensive wounds on the victims. But there was evidence that other weapons were used on the bodies, including a ball-peen hammer. Sam was living in the Niederbrock residence for 4 to 5 days with the deceased victims. Neighbors said they could smell decay outside So Sam ended up making a video sometime after the murders when he was still in the house. In the video, he tells his family he loves them, that he is very sorry for what he did. He had to do it. He snapped. He says he needs to pay for his consequences, which makes no sense, but he's not willing to turn himself in, so he's going to end his life. He doesn't outright say that, but he turns the camera towards the stairs, and it seems as though there might be a rope or a belt tied to the banister. And he says, "I'm not going to tell you what I'm going to do, but you can tell." You can actually watch the full 2-minute video. It's up on YouTube, and he basically ends it by saying, "F the world." He did not follow through on his plan, though, obviously. Sam was initially arrested for the first-degree murder of Mark, robbery, and grand larceny. The charges for the 3 remaining victims would come when the bodies could be properly ID'd, which wouldn't be for a couple of days. He was appointed a criminal defense lawyer named Carrie Bowen. A preliminary exam was scheduled for January 11th, and he was held in the Piedmont Regional Jail in Prince Edward County, Virginia, until then. Sam's sister Sarah says just a couple of days before the arrest, Sam called home and left a message, ending it with, "I love you." She thought that was weird because their family was not affectionate in that way. She says her mind was blown that her brother was a suspect in the murder, and his father told a news reporter that his son was innocent until proven guilty. A few days after his arrest, his home in Castro Valley, California would be raided. His computer and dozens of bags of evidence would be confiscated. Sam McCroskey would plead guilty to 2 counts of capital murder and 2 counts of first-degree murder on September 20th, 2010, just a year after the crime. In exchange, he would receive 4 life sentences. He took the plea to avoid the death penalty. He also waived his right to an appeal. Sam pleading guilty would also spare the victims' families from needing to sit through a trial, and they supported the plea deal. The DA for Prince Edward County, James Ennis, said, "What it really means is death in prison. It's a guaranteed outcome, and hopefully it will bring some measure of closure to the family." His attorney goes on to say, "He's left families without their loved ones. There are 4 people dead here. He's not proud of that, and Sam is remorseful and contemplative of what he's done." However, after his arrest, he told a reporter, "Jesus made me do it. Leave Jesus out of this, please." And he was photographed smirking at reporters. He showed a little emotion during his hearing and declined to make a comment. A family spokesperson read the following statement from Dr. Deborah Kelly's parents, Thomas and Margaret. "We have endured rejection is not a reason for murder. If you are a young person watching this and you feel an uncontrollable rage from rejection, please seek help. This is not a healthy response. A day after Sam's arrest, someone logged into his MySpace and deleted several comments left by Emma. A comment from her that is especially troubling in hindsight reads, "I know my mind works weird because I always expect the worst, but I'm trying so hard not with you because I know you'd never hurt me." While Emma's murder was completely senseless, the sad fact is Melanie, Deborah, and Mark were killed for simply being in the wrong place at the wrong time. This is truly a cautionary tale of be careful who you meet online, but there was no way of knowing how truly evil Sam really was. The only solace we can take from this is that Sam is behind bars and will never see freedom again. It's also been said that he is having a hard time in prison. The other prisoners do not respect him because he killed 3 defenseless women in their sleep. I want to end this video by talking a little more about the victims to bring a little bit of light and levity to this terrible story. Dr. Deborah Kelly was remembered as an amazing professor who was devoted to her students. She taught at Longwood University since 1994. They say she was born to teach. She helped form a criminal justice fraternity, Lambda Phi Epsilon, and would often have cookouts for the students. At the time of her death, she was on paid leave and planned to resign in May so she could get a job at Virginia State to be closer to her parents. Mark Niederbrock had been a pastor at Walker Church for 6 years. Friends and coworkers said, "Mark is someone we can never replace. He was a friend to everyone. He had an energetic personality you couldn't forget. He was a devoted father and also had an interest in photography, graduating from the University of Illinois with a major in photo." Emma Niederbrock was a sweet girl. Besides horrorcore, she also loved the Backstreet Boys and NSYNC, designing clothing, photography, and doing hair and makeup. Her friend William Hamilton said, "Emma lived life to the fullest and did everything in her own way." Melanie Wells was